Hey guys, welcome to My Sew Bliss. Today I'm super excited to be partnering up with Baby Lock sewing machines and bringing you another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the cutest little children's socks. These are about a 5-year-old size and the crew size sock. The pattern is going to have an ankle, a crew, and a knee sock sizing, and that goes from like 0 to 3 months all the way up to 12 years. So it's a great pattern, cutest little thing, and it also comes with pattern pieces that you can make little faces on the socks and make them into like reindeer or a rabbit or a dog or cute little things like that. I just kind of kept mine simple for now, at least. My son really liked this fabric, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And today I'm going to be using my Baby Lock Zest, which is this machine right here. This is a wonderful beginner machine. It's great for these small projects like this. It's great to carry around the house. It's super lightweight. So it's a really awesome, sturdy machine, perfect for beginners, but it also is just a great everyday machine to give you those basic stitches that you'll need to do fun projects like this. So those supplies that you're going to need are first the pattern. I'm going to put a link for it down below. It is an affiliate link. Thank you for supporting my creative endeavors. And then you're going to need your fabric. I am just using some like stretchy fabric. Stretch knit fabric. Has a good stretch. You could also use, I'm excited to try this, like an old sweater that I have. I'm gonna try and make myself a pair of socks out of that. So if you wanna check out like my reels, I'll probably do like a reel on it on Instagram or like a YouTube short. I'll probably post it on there too. So lots of different options. You just want it to be able to stretch around your foot. And then you're gonna wanna make sure you're using a needle that's good for your fabric. So like a ballpoint needle, a jersey needle, stretch needle, something like that. It's gonna make it a lot easier to sew. I was sewing with like a dull needle at first, a not very good needle for this project, and it was not working well and I was having all these issues. Whereas this project should be quick, easy, and really like good for beginners. You just want to make sure you're using the right needle with your fabric and it'll work out perfectly and go super smooth. So other than that, you're just going to need your basic sewing supplies. So let's get started. So your first step is going to be making sure you have your pattern pieces cut out. I'm going to be doing the crew length for these, and it's kind of confusing once you take your pattern pieces off. So you might want to mark it, which piece is your back piece and which piece is your front piece. And then also on my pattern piece, I even marked like these are where the toes are, because sometimes it got a little confusing, especially when I did this the very first time. So that might be helpful. But our very first step is going to be taking our back pieces, and these right here are the heel darts. So it's just going to be creating that kind of like cushion for your heel to sit in. And we're just going to line those up just like this and sew right along here. So I'm going to do that side and then that side, and the same thing on this one. So since we have 2 socks, we're just doubling up on all of our steps. So I'll take these over to the sewing machine and just do a stitch right along here. I'm going to be doing zigzag stitches just because I like doing those because they stretch when the sock stretches and they're less likely to break, the stitching is. So I'm going to be doing zigzag stitches on pretty much all of my stitching, and I just like that. You could also do a stretch stitch as well if your machine has one. So just keep that in mind when you're picking out what stitch to use. So here we are at the Baby Lock Zest. I have done my stitch selection of stitch C that matches this over here. So doing that, I'm just doing the length at a 2.5. So keeping that pretty normal. And then like I said earlier, just stitching right along these darts. And I am going to back stitch at the beginning and the end just to really secure those in place. Then with those sewn, I'm going to press that away from the toe piece, which is, remember, down here, these little triangles are. So if we flip it over, I would press it this way. I'm just going to press it with my fingers just like this. If you want to press it with an iron, you can. Totally cool too. We'll try to remember it's pressed that way when we go to pin our sides together, that it's that way is the way to go. So then I'm going to flip it back over to right sides so that we can take our front pieces and line it up with our back pieces. And like I said, this is our toe piece down here. So we're going to match it up with this toe piece, which is down here as well. So our front piece is matching up with our back piece along this edge where the toes are going to go. So I'm lining this up, and then I'm going to sew that. So I'm just going to sew straight across on both pieces, real quick and easy. With those front and back pieces sewn together, I'm just going to stay at my sewing machine, because then I'm going to take it and do a top stitch right along. So this is our front piece, this top one right here, and this is our back piece. And I'm just going to fold this seam up and stitch right along here, just to do a top stitching, just kind of finish that off to make it look really nice. You'll notice some socks like have that stitching right on top of the toes, and that's what this is going to be. So I'm going to switch my stitch the way I'm doing it. It's going to be a straight stitch now, and just straight across right along that seam, and it's going to be catching the seam we just sewed underneath. Once that's top stitched, here I have one of those socks all laid out, and then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to be putting the right sides together again, and right where these triangles are, so that's where our toes go, so that's the toe edge, those are going to line up, and then our edges are going to line up, and this is going to come up to the top. So it should all line up together. It might have gotten a little stretched out here, and you should still have this heel folded right there. So if I have that folded correctly, this piece, so this is our top or our front piece of our socks, it's going to line up right along that edge, and then I can just pin that in place. So I'm going to make sure that heel is still pressed back, and that's why I was saying you got to make sure it stays in place when we sew for this step. So I'm just pinning that in right here. So that seam is going to look right like that. It's not going to be right on the edge. There's going to be a little bit of room, and then this angle right here, we're going to pin that. That's where your toes go. So it's good to pin this one pretty good so that all the pieces stay lined up and don't get messed up while you're sewing. So now I can sew down each edge, one edge and then the other edge. You don't come across. That's so we can actually put our socks on. So I'm going to do that with both of my pieces. Once you have both of those socks, those sides sewn, you might feel like over here, especially around the toes, it's kind of gotten a little stretched out and there's a little excess fabric. At least that's what I've noticed in some of my socks that I've sewn. So I just take my scissors and I don't cut any of my threads, but I just trim that up a little bit so it's not going to irritate anybody's toes. So just clean up that curve a little bit. And then once I have those trimmed up, I'm going to set them off to the side, and then I just have my bands to finish off. So I'm going to take each band. Oh, I didn't cut that in half. There we go. Okay, so each band, long ways, right sides together, just fold it in half. I'm going to stitch right along here. Our stitch is 1/4 of an inch, and I'm still doing my zigzag stitch, so I'm just going to create those bands. With my bands ready, I'm going to flip each sock right sides out. Oh, cute. Those are turning out so cute. I'm excited. And then I'm going to flip my band right side out and then fold it in half. So kind of hot dog style. Line the seam up. You could stick a pin in there if you need to. Okay, and then I like to find the halfway point from one seam to the other so that it doesn't get like too wonky and weird. So once I have it folded in half, here's my seam right here. I'm going to hold that end and then find the halfway point to the other side and stick a pin in that. So that way I know which side or how much of the band goes on each side. So I'm going to put it over the sock, right sides together, and lining up our raw edges. And I'm going to line up that seam on the band with the seam, one of the seams of the sock. And then I'll pin that in place. And then the other pin that we did like the halfway point at, that's going to go on our other seam of the sock and line up with that spot. So that way I know I stretched equal amounts all the way around. So pin that in place, and now that is ready to be sewn on. Just make sure all raw edges are together. So then I'll do the same thing on this sock. And I like to sew in the inside of the sock all the way around. Just makes it a little bit easier for me. I start right before one of those pins. You just got to make sure all 3 layers are lined up. All those raw edges get caught when you're stitching. And then after you've sewn those bands on, you can just make sure they're turned out all the way. We poke the corners of the toe area out to make sure they're all good and ready. And then you are all done with your socks. I think they turned out super cute. I'm super excited about them and really love how they turned out. I think my son's gonna like them. I really like this fabric. So I'm excited to try them and kind of try it out and see if I could do one with like a sweater that I have, that old sweatshirt, and kind of make it out of that fabric and maybe even try and upsize it and make one for me. That would be really fun. So we'll see, but I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below, and make sure to check out the Baby Lock Zest. I'll put a link down for that below as well in the description, and anything else you might need like the pattern. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.